So we're continuing our look at fan casting, but in this one I'm responding to Mike's book reviews. He really knows the books, he really knows the mythology. And again, these are totally fan picks, whereas I tried to do what will probably happen. He's doing, ideally, this is who I want to play the role. And he admits there's some issues in terms of his original versus later picks. So let's get right into it. Who does he think should be the Emperor?
So I'm not going to do the popular picks on that one. For me, with the Emperor, I don't think he needs to look inherently sinister per se. Yeah, cool. He's ruling in power with an iron fist. I don't think that he needs to be the mustache twirling bad guy. He can look normal. He can look like a normal person, I think. He doesn't have to look really, really evil. So what I'm going for with this is the first pick that I have for this is Jared Harris. You might know him from Mad Men. You might know him from The Expanse. You might know him from the new Foundation adaptation. I think the guy just has great delivery. He has an amazing speaking voice, and he can look sinister if he has to, but he always looks in control. I think he looks approachable, but again, he always looks like he has a plan. Just the way that he delivers lines, especially on Foundation, is when I really thought, man, he would actually make a really awesome Carino. So that's kind of who I would really roll with. If you're giving me carte blanche to do anyone that I want for this, I think I would go with him, because I think that he would just really deliver some of those lines and have that imposing presence that I think the Emperor needs to have when he enters the room. He demands that you pay attention to him. So I think that'd be a really, really great pick. Another one, now this one's going to be where you'll see me do this a couple times on this list, is Denny likes to reuse a lot of the same actors and actresses in his movies. He's recycled them more than once. So some of them, I'm kind of going to admit to doing that a little bit. Now, when I was fan casting Dune Part 1 in my head, I imagined Hugh Jackman as Dukalito. So I'm going to go ahead and put him in for the Emperor here, because they worked really great together in Prisoners. I thought that was one of Hugh Jackman, maybe his best performance ever in that role. And I think the Emperor needs to be about late 50s, early 60s in age here. And I think that he would, it's hard to think now because people have known him for Wolverine so long. I think Hugh Jackman's getting up there, you know, and I think that he doesn't quite have to be as aged looking as he did when he played Logan.
Well, these are some interesting choices, especially the more obscure actor. That was interesting and very well thought out. But of course, we're all here for the big one, which is Hugh Jackman. I'm sure there are people who mostly know Denis Villeneuve and his work, but there may be some people who are late to the game. Hugh Jackman and Denis worked on Prisoners, which was a very kind of serious drama film. I actually saw Prisoners in theaters. It's actually a really funny story. I'll do it real quick. Basically, I was watching it with my brother and his girlfriend at the time. But it's funny because we had a choice. It's either see this or Riddick. And I actually like Riddick a lot. I like the Chronicles of Riddick. But this is the third part. And I was like, no, I want to see Prisoners. And he was like, all right. But he wanted to see Riddick instead. So kind of funny story. So anyway, they do Prisoners together. It's a very strong film. It is very dark, however, so I'll just forewarn, it's a very excellent film, but very, very dark. And as he says, he actually wanted Hugh Jackman to be Dukalito. I'll do this real quick because I don't want to get bogged down into the political discussion, because there's been a lot of mythologies here. But like it or not, if you go with the books carefully, Dukalito is dark-skinned. That's the way he's described. A lot of fans keep forgetting this, but he is technically dark-skinned. So, ironically, Denis isn't also doing the canonical version. He's supposed to be more dark-skinned, but, you know, Oscar Isaac is Hispanic, so I think this was like the best kind of compromise between what the books really say versus, I think, what fans think. I'm sure fans honestly think this, that Dukalito is Caucasian or white. He's not described that way. He is described as dark-skinned. So choosing Jackman does not make sense in terms of the book. That's fine. I have no issue with that. But the thing is, Mike is saying, for most of his picks, oh, these are very accurate to the book. Well, in this one, he made a major goof. It's clearly not the case that Hugh Jackman is dark-skinned, so that does make sense. But there we go. It is fan casting. So let's get to the substance of it. Would he be right for the Emperor? Well, and I've dealt with this in some of the comments, that the Emperor's age is actually a little all over the place. I think most of us would assume he's older. Now, what do we mean by old? Because again, the Dune is set in a very far future, and it's a science fiction world. So does the word old mean the same thing? Well, it seems he should be closer to his 60s, as far as I understand it. So Hugh Jackman doesn't line up with the books in terms of the age. I know what Mike is talking about. Hugh Jackman is getting older, but he's not that old. That's why I picked somebody like Idris, because we don't necessarily need the exact age, or even, we do want sort of like the projection of the thing itself. So even if it goes away from the book, at least as long as we're capturing what the Emperor should be or Duke should be. Well, with the Emperor, I always imagined he was old, but he's not super evil. He's more kind of like a Machiavellian figure. He's sort of in between good and evil. He's doing a lot of evil things, but he's being manipulated, right? The Bene Gesserit are manipulating him. So we'd want somebody who is sort of able to cast a kind of regal appearance and capture that. I do think Jackman fits in that case. I think definitely Hugh Jackman is a great choice. I don't have any issue with that. I am kind of torn though because Hugh doesn't care about the money. He's already super rich. He doesn't need any more money. But it's kind of one of these things with the production. You don't want actors who are too big either, even if he's willing to do it for a very low rate. What makes Dune interesting is it is mostly character actors. Some of them are stars. Tonally, I don't know if it would work in terms of that, but I think it's a respectable pick. I guess it would just be sort of a little too obvious. That's my criticism of it, but there's nothing wrong with giving the fans what they want. I think highly of The Last Jedi and Ghostbusters Afterlife, and a lot of those have very fan moments. So, to be consistent, if we want more fan stuff in Dune Part 2, I have no issue with that. Hugh Jackman is a great actor. I have no issue with his acting skill. But then I do want the other picks to be a little bit more balanced. And he does. He picks some more obscure people for the other roles. So, The Emperor, I think it's a good pick, but it's not technically canonical to the books, if we're being serious. That's one of those things that, do you want to be consistent with the canon, or do something that makes more sense with the Denis Villeneuve canon? But I think this is a good compromise between both aspects. But it's definitely not the Emperor from the books, just like Oscar Isaac is really not the quote books version of the Dukalito. There we are, kind of a good pick, but it's probably going to do the same. It's going to divide people in terms of politics or the canon. There we are. That's always going to be the case. All right. Thanks for listening.